Right, time to record a video. Ruby, get off my notes. I'm useless without my notes, you know this. Hey guys, welcome back to another Butterfly Effect podcast video. So after our project of analysing and doing the deep dive of Until Dawn, which we really enjoyed, by the way, and thank you for all the support through that, we thought we just wanted to reward you guys with just a bit of a top 8 character list. Now, if you looked at the podcast, we had a lot of discussion about who our favourites and least favourites were, so we just wanted to break it down for you guys in a top 8 video. So myself, Anya and Jack will be releasing our videos of who we think is our top 8. Now, just to sort of mention, this top 8 can really be whatever we want, so it could be the characters we'd like to hang out with the most. It could be how well they were written, how good the performances were. It really is kind of our choice about how we do this. So obviously it's completely subjective. There's going to be a lot of opinions that I say, Anya and Jack will say, that we'll disagree with. But just remember, this is completely subjective. But obviously let us know in the comments what you guys think yours are and how wildly wrong we are, as we usually tend to be. So yeah, I just want to kick off by saying that as I'm starting this week, I'm doing the Monday slot. My views constantly change. Now, I kind of have always had my favourite and my least favourite is probably always going to be the same. But it's always switching. So, to be honest, I'm releasing this list and it's kind of rendered pointless by the fact that next week it's probably going to switch again. But nonetheless, let's get right into the video. Number 8 is Matt. Now, I know this is going to heartbreak a lot of people because Matt, he's the sweetheart of the game. He's lovable. But I guess I just feel like there's not enough playability there. He probably is the most wooden character out of the lot. And I just don't really know what there is to like other than the fact that he's a nice guy. And, a bit of a sweetheart, really. So he's a little bit of a pushover, and I know you can edit him slightly, but I don't think you can change it too much. At the end of the day, he'll always end up carrying Emily's bags, following her, agreeing with her, that kind of thing. On top of this, he just gets some really dumb decisions, like killing the elk and falling off. I know it's probably like all the characters have their fair share of dumb decisions of this nature, but I don't know, I just feel like I needed to see more of Matt, and I needed more than just a lovable sweetheart, meat-headed jock. Now, I know this is going to upset a lot of people, and don't get me wrong, I do respect her a lot more than I once did, especially considering after Chapter 8, she gets that really badass scene where she can go down the zip wire. We just learn how resilient she is, in the mines, how she escapes, and, like I say, we really feel sorry for her. I think you get an added depth with her when she does play the game alone, when Matt leaves early and then she has large chunks by herself where you really feel sorry for the character. But this just doesn't deflect that she's a bit of a bee, really. I mean, there's no two ways about it. She's a bit of a bitch. So yeah, I don't know, just the way that she tries to get her own boyfriend to jump to the cable car, the way it's a life or death situation. She's just fell down a mine and she's worried about, ruining her $600 clothing item or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I know you need her in the game. You can't just have loads of Sams and Ashleys, loads of nice characters. She's essential to be in the cast and break up the dynamic, but still, she makes it 7th on my list. Now, I know she's a few people's least favourites, some people's favourites. She's such a mixed bag. I've gone with 6th, but like I say, there might be a time where it mixes again, and she might end up being 2nd next week. Firstly, I'll kick off with the pros. I love her dark dynamic. If you've seen the Until Dawn podcasts, I've mentioned it way too much, so sorry if you've got to hear this again. But essentially, yeah, if you backstab Chris, you get this really solid dark dynamic out of her. And I know it's not people's first choice to play that way, but I just love the way she's written, the way that she just betrays Chris, killing him, and then she can conceal the bite and just be a bit of like a cunning, snaky, sly person, and it's just unexpected. But without this, I guess I find her a little bland. She's just simply this nice girl, a little on the shy side. And yeah, don't get me wrong, she's adorable, a little dorky. And I love her dynamic with Chris. They're probably the best couple in the game since they don't have a pre-established dynamic. Because you're playing as Chris trying to win Ashley, and she's in all these trials. But other than that, if you just take her personality by itself, I just don't think there's too much here, and I think I just wanted a little bit more out of Ashley. Now, number 5 on my list, I have given to Josh. So, don't get me wrong, he is an amazing character, and I'm going to start off by saying Rami Malek's acting ability. The transition from Chapter 2 to the mental decline we see in Chapter 10 is fantastic. I think he takes the cake for like best performance in the game. I just guess I wish I saw a lot more out of Josh in terms of playability. We only get to play as him once, and it's just not even for that long, it's just one little walk scene. And I think some of his decisions are just really illogical that it does ruin it. I don't understand why he bullies Ashley and Chris so much to this day. I get he's trying to do the Cupid dynamic, but the whole thing about getting revenge for his sister just doesn't make too much sense for me. I think, you know, his character is very flawed and there is a lot of plot holes in this. But nonetheless, it was so good having Rami Malek in this game. And, you know, there are times where I really rate him and he actually ends up being a top 3 character, but right now I'm feeling he fluctuates at around about a number 5 spot. Now, number 4 is a bit of a surprise to me. I've given it to Chris. Now, he was 3rd, and upon analysing it, I descended him and dropped him by 1 spot. Now, I really like Chris. When I did a Witch Until Dawn character review, it gave me him. His sense of humour, his dorkiness, it really matches me, to be honest. And I really like his humour, a lot of it lands. You know, whether he's doing his vow of silence or just his general goofing, his badass dance. He is a great character and such a good addition. I like the fact he's the 2nd introduced in the game for playability, and he has his moment with Sam. There's a lot of good Chris moments out there. But like I said before, I don't know if I like the fact that he's weirdly tested. He gets bullied so much, even though he's the one passed out, you know, when Beth and Hannah ultimately die. I think the reason I dropped him a little bit more is because he really does become a background character. The moment he can die, and probably is supposed to die, he just kind of wanders in the background. He can die off at one more opportunity, and then he sort of just wanders around until he can escape the lodge. So yeah, I guess he's kind of like a first half player game, and then afterwards we don't really see too much of him. Now, 3rd I gave to Mike. Now, I know a lot of people are going to disagree with one. A lot of people love Mike, they'll have him 1st. I know Anya's probably going to put him in 8th, be warned. I guess, so I'll start off with the bad stuff. So, he has too much plot armor. So, the sanatorium scenes are rendered slightly on the tedious side when we know that he can't die. He has to make it to the end of the game. Now, both scenes go over just over half an hour each, which is possibly too long when we know that he can't die. You can get away with failing all the QuickTime events, and there's not much consequence other than possibly killing Wolfie. Cry, cry. One thing I didn't like about Mike either is the fact that, yeah, I get he's a bit of a sleazeball, and ultimately he's probably at the heart of the Hannah prank which killed her, so he is a villain, and, you know, I'm not saying, you know, he should get away with his behaviour. But I just wish I saw more of an apology angle out of him. Maybe something that made him feel bad, you know, so ultimately he has to say sorry, or ultimately he has to go down this guilty trip. I feel that would have been like a really interesting angle to explore. The popular class president who ends up feeling sorry for himself, how his school popularity and all that doesn't matter. But now he wanders the game and he's still trying to get into girls' pants, sleeping with like half the cast essentially. But yeah, I don't know. Instead he just got this different story angle where he ran after Jess, he was kind of inquiring about the strangers and the miners, going after the cable car. He never really got kind of a story involving like Hannah or Beth. And I feel like this might have been a bit of a mistake, but that's just my opinion. Now, I've dug into him pretty heavily there, so you're probably wondering, well, what's the good stuff? Well, if we take the replayability away and we just go from our blind playthrough, I think we have to stop and remember how good those sanatorium scenes actually were when we first played them. When we didn't know he could die, we were worried for his life. He has some really badass action scenes, shooting the barrels, escaping the Wendigos, recruiting a dog. And I'm not saying he's a good person because what he did was really bad. However, you can't just sort of say the guy thinks with his dick, which a lot of people claim. When he thought Jessica was going to die, which by the way, he ran after her in the snow, you know, like trying to save her. I really do think there is a bit of depth there and he does care. And even when he thinks Jessica dies, he still goes back and forth across the sanatoriums, back through the mines to retrieve the cable car key from Josh, even after thinking his girlfriend's dead. I do think there is a bit of a good person there. If you think that doesn't redeem himself at least a little bit, then I don't know what will. Like, the guy absolutely busts his ass going back and forth to save the group. So yeah, Mike fluctuates a lot on my list, but right now I'm kind of feeling to put him at third place. Now, I was tempted to throw her a little lower, but I've always liked Sam. I get that she spent half the game in a bath, and she's the most unrealistic climber ever, and we probably could have played as Sam a little more, other than the tutorial and, you know, that kind of stuff. She has the really epic chase scene, though, which I really like. It's probably the most iconic part of the game, where she's running away from the psycho, and the rats with bushy tails effect comes into place. I like the fact as well she's a level-headed badass. They could have easily made her the shyest character or the most outgoing character, but she's somewhere in between, and I really like that. Another really good thing about Sam is her acting ability, played by Hayden Panettiere. She's just a really nice, you know, character, and I think it's played very well, and Hayden Panettiere was really well suited to playing Sam. And the final point I wanted to mention is I really like the fact Sam doesn't get a love story arc. Now, if you look at a lot of the other characters, possibly 6 out of the 8, they're all in couples or an upcoming couple. Josh has his, obviously, mental decline, and he is the host, and we know what happens with him. But Sam's in between. She doesn't have a love interest because she doesn't need it. I think it would have been lame if they did the thing where a bit of a Fleetwood Mac or a Friends scenario was going on where they all just couple off. I feel Sam needed just to be a plain character who's there to save her friends, who wanted an innocent trip in the lodge, a nice bath, and then she's on the run and she's helping her friends. I quite like the fact she wasn't, watered down with an unneeded love story. It just makes her a lot more pure, and it makes me like Sam a lot more, which is why she got second. Which is why we're getting to number 1, and as you gathered, there's someone missing, so it's clear who my number 1 is. And yes, you are right. The Stranger, ladies and gentlemen. What a character. Nah, for real. Oh god, I hate my life. My jokes are so shit. Now, I know it's a bit of a weird choice, considering we probably only play as her about twice, but it's like I told you in the podcast, I am just sold by the comeback queen angle. I really thought she was dead, especially when my brother tricked me the whole time thinking I killed characters in a way that I couldn't have avoided, but my brother told me that I messed up badly. When she came back, I was so thrilled, and I was rooting for her the same way. I was so adamant to keep all the characters alive I could, so when I found out that I spared one, I just really like her dialogue as well, from her snappy comebacks, her snowball fight kind of, sassiness, all the way to the fact that when you get to the end, she gets that really cool moment with Matt. I know you technically play as Matt, but just the fact that I felt so rewarded that I completed that don't move, and then the quick time event that quickly followed afterwards. I do agree that maybe we could have played as her a lot more, and she needed a lot more playability, maybe instead of some of those sanatorium scenes. Especially where you're walking up to the lodge with Mike, and you raised it in the podcast, and I thought it's a very good point, and it's one that I'm completely sold on now. It would have been nice if we played as Jess walking up to the cabin. But yeah, Jess, the lady who played by Megan Martin, who went up to Haytor near my hometown, and I could have met her but didn't. It is the most tragic story of my life. But yeah, Jess at number 1. Now, I know this is a bit of a controversial list, and it's completely subjective, But yeah, you'll see Anya and Jack's ones. So be sure to tell us who matched your list yourselves the best, and let us know if I forgot anything or if any of my decisions are completely dumb. And Emily haters, come at me. We'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much, guys.